We have a ghost in the sales machine today. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 178th episode of the Sales Podcast. And I do not know what I got myself into. I must warn you this time. This one is a little bit explicit. Usually these are very clean, but there are some potty mouth words in this one. I thought about editing them out, but this is how Brian rolls. It's not throughout the whole thing, but it is mentioned a few times. So consider yourself warned, but I must say that the content in here is so valuable. I left it in, and I wanted to keep it as is because it is that good. I ran across Brian recently. I've been seeing his ads and his marketing on Facebook. As I did some research into the guy, I realized he knows his stuff, and I want to have him on. He shares his stories about getting traffic through Reddit, getting published in Adweek, getting nearly 25,000 shares on a post, millions of views through Reddit. Even we mentioned briefly about how he got his dog highly ranked on YouTube with thousands of subscribers and millions of views. So get your pen and paper ready. Keep your finger near the pause and the rewind button because you are going to do that quite often. Now here's Brian. The man with a nice beard, Brian Swichkow, all the way from Marina Del Rey. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much. I'm fluffing my beard in your honor.
I know, but then you turned your video off, so you tease. I may end this interview right now.
But there should be a static picture of me with a crappy white hat.
Well, you know what? I might do that. I mean, I do see some guys, because I'm starting to just put more of these up on YouTube, just for a little extra SEO juice. And some guys, they do just put a static picture up there. So, you may see your mug in a less than appealing light because my Photoshop skills are not very good. But I'm not afraid to publish.
Well, I will have to change it because I have ranked my photos statistically based on the amount of matches that I get on Tinder.
Nice.
So the one that you're seeing on Skype is not updated. I should probably change that.
All right. You better get with the times, man. So I've been stalking you online, seeing your very cool, very interesting Facebook ads with this ghost influence, and the one that got my attention and had me reach out was you got something. We'll tell that story as we go through, but it was on how to go viral with Reddit.
Yes.
And I start digging through, and I look on your LinkedIn profile. I've got it here on the other screen here. It says, built my dog's YouTube channel to 6,500 subscribers. And what is that, 2 million plus page views or videos?
Yeah, I think it's more than that at this point. It's been a weird journey. Actually, the most awkward, fame, I guess, is I was at a bar, and someone heard me talking and said, "You sound really familiar. Do you have a dachshund?" And they because I'm never in any of the videos, it's always a dog, but I talk. They recognize my voice from the YouTube channel. It's the most awkward thing that's ever happened to me.
That's awesome. So for our listeners that may not know much about you, would you mind take a minute or two, give us a little thumbnail sketch, and we'll dive down the rabbit hole?
I call myself a social engineer. What that translates to is kind of my mantra, which is build cool shit and change the world. Usually that starts with a drunken idea and then results in laughably comical, somewhat sober execution. It mixes between Reddit marketing, creating things for the web that kind of are designed to go viral and passively promote, offers, businesses, whatever it may be, or just straight up Facebook marketing in clever ways. And I like to write and make things. And I was a kid that was obsessed with Brios and Legos, and now I just play with internet stuff.
Very nice. So our listeners will always like to play the devil's advocate. Because they're going to listen to this and say, well, I don't have a dog, I don't have a beard, I'm married with a mortgage, and I have a lot of debt, and my boss hates me, and I hate my life, so this has nothing to do with me. What can I learn from this guy? And you would say?
I think everybody has a story, and there's always opportunities to make a story, and it really... It's partially the story, but it's more in how you tell it. And there's, if you look at kind of the most interesting man, the Dos Equis guy, and you look at the commercials, those one-liners that are just like, they paint such a clear picture in this just one sentence, and you're like, wait, really? There's so many opportunities to say those, but also to create them. And that's kind of actually my goal in life, is to just continually do things that give me some really interesting one-liners to just casually inject in conversation and confuse or astound people.
So what can the average listener, though, what can they learn from you? You know, we got a short 20, 25 minutes here. I mean, from your exploitations and journeys, I mean, most listen. My 18-year-old son turned me on to Reddit about a year ago, and I log in and out. I actually made my first couple of posts just yesterday. More of I'm just watching and laughing, and I go to the jokes quite often. I mean, there's some interesting stuff there, but I guarantee you 99% of my listeners right now have not ventured onto Reddit. And reading your story and what got picked up on Adweek, I mean, it was a great story. What can a mere mortal learn from you, or some little nuggets maybe you could share on that story, how somebody could build maybe a brick and mortar business or their online business with Reddit? Is it possible?
It absolutely is. And actually, somewhat recently, there was a great success story of a brick and mortar. And I think she's in Portland, and she makes cakes. I want to say it was like artisanal cake company. And one of her cakes went viral and hit the front page. And I don't agree with what she did, but she shut down her website and stopped answering her phone. She's like, I can't take these orders. So she just kind of like freaked out. And I was like, you could like, I don't know, do something else. But the reality of it is that it's about stories. And I think Jonathan Gottschall, if I'm going to attempt not to butcher this quote, is there's nothing more powerful than the suction of story. No matter how hard we try, no matter how much we dig our heels, we can't resist the lure of alternate worlds. I actually nailed that quote. And it really is a matter of finding those stories. And everybody I talk to, I try and ask interesting questions, and you find out, I mean, one of my favorite ones is, what's the most interesting way you've made money online? And even online marketers are like, wow, that's a really provocative question. And then they reminisce about that ridiculous thing they did one time. Stories don't always have to be your own. I mean, that story, the answer to that question, became my story. And I say, this one time I was drinking with this guy and he told me this crazy story. It really is, people look for connection, and that could be in a personal relationship as you're talking to someone, to build that relationship to a point where you can leverage it into a sale. It could be with a customer that frequents the store and figuring out, who they are and where they come from, and, interesting things that they have in their background, so that you can share it with other customers of, oh yeah, this guy that comes in. It really is a matter of looking for those stories and then finding a fun way to communicate them or share them. It has nothing to do with internet magic. The internet magic is kind of just how are we sharing those and communicating those in a big way. But most of what I do, especially with clients, is just ask questions and find out, why they started the business, the actual reason, not the make money reason. And it's fun. I mean, just being inherently curious yields a lot of really interesting results.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you about that, because it sounds like you just have to be curious, right? You have to take an interest in people, because I write the Weekly Whisper. I just, a little newsletter I send out mostly every week. And the one I sent out yesterday, I had a picture of me just, all the social media icons just banging down on crushing my body, and it's like, everywhere you look, it's Snapchat. No, it's Periscope. No, you need to be on Meerkat. Well, Facebook Live is now out. Oh, well, you should get on Reddit. Well, what about Instagram? What about Pinterest? And it's like you literally don't have time to open every single app, let alone create content applicable for each one and well suited. But everybody seems to be focused on the platform, on the medium, instead of the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few things to that. And the first is that every platform, by nature of what it is, has a very distinct language. Vine is a great example, because their platform forces a very short video, and as a result of that, you have both video and a fixed amount of time. And by nature of the structure of their social network, it fostered very irreverent, quick-witted humor, because that was kind of what was possible, what was the easiest thing to do, and that's the predominant content on their platform. So, you have to kind of consider what the platform is and what content fits there and how easy it is for you to speak based on your personality and your brand's personality, and then go with what you enjoy. I am not a huge Snapchatter. I love it, but I just don't.
We got to end this. No. Snapchat's it. You're not Snapchat. You're not it. Okay,
but I've had my moments. That's the thing is, like, I'll have a day, like Thanksgiving, I probably did like 20 Snapchats, and the people who saw all of them in a row were laughing hysterically. This is amazing. But, I'll go out to a massive party and there'll be all these ridiculous opportunities for great content, and I'm not going to jump to pull out my phone. A lot of times if I'm bored, I'll get creative and I'll make something. But if there's something going on, I personally like to immerse myself in what's going on. And that's not that, it's not to say that that's the right thing to do. That's the right thing for me to do. Right. So the key is to really figure out, kind of the difference between the social networks and figure out where you fit best so that you enjoy it and you're more likely to do it, but also so that your voice is organic and not forced. A lot of people who do social networks that they shouldn't be doing end up posting things that are dry and just off brand because, they're only twittering because someone told them to Twitter. And I air quote around the twittering.
Now, if your video was on, we could see you do the air quote.
I know.
I'm just saying. So what are you doing now to make money? I mean, you have some big shares, and I want to talk about shares actually, because that one it was amazing. You got 24,900 shares on mysocialsherpa.com, where you pranked your roommate on Facebook, but on Twitter you only have 460 followers. So people, some of the air quote pros, would say you're doing this all wrong because you need more Twitter followers, but you have articles with a tremendous amount of shares. So it seems like you're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the interesting thing that I found about online marketing is I personally always have a story. There's everything in my, LinkedIn, on my CV, whatever, there's always a story attached to it. And so, I kind of understand from that experience that when I look at someone else's stuff, if I see someone go viral, they might have 6 million fans on Facebook and 2,000 on Twitter. My story with Twitter is that I had another account and I changed the screen name or the username, and I had like 6,000 people, but it was a very different business, and rather than kind of go through, I decided to start a new one. But that being said, I went through a breakup like 4 years ago, and I was big into Twitter. I loved Twitter, which is how I kind of amassed that audience. I kind of went on a social media sabbatical for a month, and when I came back, I, for whatever reason, wasn't interested in Twitter anymore, and Facebook was my thing. It was very much a mood, and the 24,000 shares on Facebook was because I created a piece of content and submitted it to Reddit, and it just kind of went crazy, went viral, and went all over Facebook for, I don't know, maybe like a month. Had a resurgence a few months later, and it's like the thing I'm awkwardly known for at conferences. But really, it's, a lot of the stuff that I do, I kind of have two things. I teach, and I teach people digital empathy and how to create interesting pieces of content that really just foster genuine connection. And I teach that, but I also do it myself. And so I'll take a drunken idea and then I will actually build it. The current project right now to be fair, it was a sober idea. But I was in a coffee shop and I saw a guy. I live in Marina, but I was in Venice, and Venice is kind of known for the hipster scene. And this guy walks in with this like ridiculously colored poncho and like clear frame chrome sunglasses. And he paid for a $6 coffee with a handful of change, while in his other hand holding a 1-inch thick wad of $100 bills. And I'm just like, I'm looking at it. I took a picture. I posted it to my Facebook. And I'm like, someone called the National Association of Hipsters. This guy's their poster child. And I'm like, it's actually kind of funny. National Association of Hipsters. And I looked it up. And the domain was available. And I bought it. And then I realized that the abbreviation for National Association of Hipsters is just NAH. And so that became a thing. And, maybe it'll be a prank. Maybe it'll be just a funny thing. Maybe it'll be an e-commerce store, but coming up with an idea and taking the time to execute it well, honestly, a lot of drunken ideas have become profitable affiliate sites or e-commerce stores.
Well, that was a kicker that you put there at the end, doing it well. I mean, how do you do it well? There's so many times. I know me as an entrepreneur, I'll get a good idea, and man, it is tough to launch. It's tough to pretty that thing up, to shine that turd, which may not even be a turd, but it was a good idea. And man, by the time you think it's ready, you're almost bored with it, and you're going to the next thing before you can get this 80, 90% almost done thing, but it's not done, and you can't launch it.
Yeah, and that's something I go through all the time. I've gotten a little bit better about it because I've seen what happens when it's done well, and I've seen what happens when it's not done well. But for someone who's never kind of received the success, it's difficult to be like, well, why can't we launch it now? And most recently, I launched was a drunken idea, and it was what's the weirdest domain that you could buy to have the most ridiculous email address to give out in a bar. And the results, sparing the story, was your cute girl asked for your name. It's Brian with an I, BRIAN, at yourplacetonight.com. and so I'm not a developer, but I can manage a team, and I had developers build out the app. And as they told me, the actual development of the app, where anyone can go and register the email, took about 2 days. But knowing that I was submitting it to Reddit and knowing how much traffic I was going to get from it, just based on prior experience, I was like, the server has to be perfect. And they wanted to submit it after. They were like, cool, it's done. Project's over. And I go, no, load test. And we spent 4 months, months going back and forth, trying to figure out how to get, it wasn't full time. I think in total, the project cost, it was like $1,200, and I probably spent maybe 5 to 10 hours managing it. But it took 4 months of trying to figure out what web host to use and how to build a server that would be able to withstand that level of traffic. And we did it, and then we launched it, and everyone's like, it's a fun thing that you did in a weekend. I'm like, well, part of it was in a weekend, but taking the time I made the user interface tell the joke, because I didn't want it to need additional explanation. So I sent it to a bunch of people who I'd never told the story to, who didn't get it, to test it, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. If I didn't have to explain it further, then I knew I'd done something right. So taking your time and just massaging it until it hits that mark is far better than launching something that's incomplete or doesn't quite hit the mark, because then you have one opportunity to kind of put it out there. You have one opportunity for a first impression, as my mom always used to say. Yeah. And it's just really important to do it well. If you can't, and that applies to the individual pieces too. It's like, if you're going to launch something and you can't commit the time to doing, Facebook and Twitter, then choose one and don't do both. Only do the elements that you can do well.
Right. So how do you monetize something like that? yourplacetonight.com. I just pulled it up here on my other screen, and so it's funny. It's interesting. What do you do with it?
There are a variety of ways. The first and foremost is the one that's on the page, which is that knowing it was going to get a lot of traffic, we built the server to withstand it, and then the Reddit hug of death is fairly well known to people who are on Reddit. And what it is basically, if traffic gets to the front page of Reddit, it gets so much traffic that it often crashes the server. Mm-hmm. And that happened with my blog when I launched it. I think before it crashed, there were 5,000 people active on my site. And it crashed 3 times in one day and cost me something like $2,000 in extra bandwidth fees. So when this was built, that the goal was to build something that couldn't be crashed, and then have this cheeky line at the bottom that says Reddit hug of death prevented by InMotion hosting. and that is straight up an affiliate link. It is not hidden. It is not disguised. It is an affiliate link. And people commented on it, and they're like, my, aren't we cocky, Reddit hug of death prevention, but rightfully so. This is amazing. And, it was fun. So that was number one. Number two is that it's generating an email list, and I'm not hitting the list. I'm not leveraging it, but there are opportunities to authentically do it. I just never kind of went to pursue it.
Right.
And the third is leverage. If I'm talking to a client and I show the numbers from that project of how much it costs, how much time it took to manage, and the results within the first 30 minutes, they're just like, wow, I need to hire you. So
right.
There's a lot of different ways to leverage pretty much anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, like I said, for my listeners that can't think outside the box, I want to show them the box and then show them a window that looks outside the box. So why Ghost Influence? Where'd that name come from?
Honestly, of all the domains that I own,
were you sober when you made this one? Do not tell me you were sober when you made this one.
I have to be completely honest. I don't remember buying it.
Okay, good. You were a drunken, blacked out stupor. That's okay.
I've always been tipsy when I bought domains. I am not. I have a very good mental filter of never touching my phone when I've gone past like 3 whiskeys. But yeah, no, it really is kind of just, in essence, you make Pabst Blue.
You need a big Pabst Blue ribbon, dude. That's what you need.
I can't. I have a very strong tolerance. I'd have to drink like a case. and at a hipster bar in Venice, that is very expensive.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it was just, influence is often the most impactful and the longest lasting when, people kind of come to conclusions themselves. And if you give these gentle nudges and allow them to make those decisions for themselves, they stick longer. And so, right. It's not about like an influencer standing in front of the room saying you need this, because it's always going to be something they told you needed. Right. Versus if you, drop subtle hints and let people come to their own conclusions, it becomes a part of them, and it sticks around a hell of a lot longer, if not, for the rest of their lives. Right.
So what are your plans for this 2016? I mean, I take it. I mean, do you consult? Do you have you mentioned a team? I mean, do you take on like corporate clients, or you just pretty much doing your own thing? And if something interesting comes about, you'll take it on.
A little bit of everything. My main focus is the Ghost Influence community. It's a Slack community that teaches digital empathy.
Did you make that word up?
Say it again?
Did you make up digital empathy? Because I've never heard of that.
No. And it's actually, I'd heard it before, and I don't know where, but there's a really great book called Reclaiming Conversation that I'd highly recommend anyone read. And it's just really interesting how the more that we're engaging through the web, the less capacity for empathy that we have. Yeah. And people forget that when you're typing something to another human being. Yeah,
people are pretty much jerks on Facebook and Twitter, huh?
Yeah, I mean, anywhere. People, it's a lack for an ability to connect, and it's fun to see what happens when you actually do. The emails that you get where you can kind of see someone crying on the other end, just being like, "Thank you so much," or that impacted me. And I mean, I've started crying when I'm reading an email. I'm like, "Holy shit! Like, really? You took that from what I wrote?" Being able to communicate a feeling, and if you look at like a novelist and how they communicate this world that's in their head, if you apply that same methodology to an email when you're trying to thank a client for making a payment on time, or trying to thank a contractor for making you a lot of money, a lot of people just say, "Thanks so much, you're awesome." They use words like awesome and epic and great, which are very broad and generic. Versus if you take the time to actually articulate how that person made you feel, you have a deeper connection with them, and you make them feel the way that you feel, and then they love you even more as a result.
Now, I've asked this a lot in my interviews over the years, and there's always a fine line between manipulation and persuasion, or manipulation and sales. How would you define manipulation versus persuasion, or even connection? Because I mean, it sounds like you're doing this from an authentic place. Whereas others could grab this and say, "Yeah, I'll switch that word out because I'm going to get a 2.6% increase, uptick in click-throughs or something." You know what I mean?
I struggle with that on a regular basis. I like the word manipulation because it's very provocative, but it has very negative connotations. But as a marketer, obviously, I want the click. Persuasion even is kind of in that same boat, and it really is connection. And I think the best way to describe it is somewhat recently, I ran Facebook ads, which are probably the ones that you saw. And one of the top comments was someone who was arguing with me. They were saying you're wrong, essentially. Right. And I was like, great. Like, I wanted you to tell me I was wrong. I actually was targeting people who I knew were going to object to the content because I wanted someone to disagree. Yeah. And the reason that I wanted that was because it opened up an opportunity for a conversation. And I made a case study about this, and I said manipulation. But the funny thing is, and one of the guys that was in the conversation saw the case study, and he said that wasn't manipulation. That was just genuine conversation. I go, I know. I wasn't manipulating you. I was manipulating Facebook, because the more that I carried on the conversation with them, the more that I made them want to have a conversation with me, the more interesting things I said, the more articles I linked that were relevant to our conversation, the more that I, engaged them, the lower my ads spend went. Like the more engagement you have on an ad placement, the more efficiently you're going to run your ad spend. Your relevancy score goes up, your affinity score goes up, and you get cheaper ads. And so I was like, yeah, I wasn't manipulating you, I was manipulating Facebook.
Right.
So I mean, it's all about intention, and I think that it is somewhat easy for people to discover that. So if you're trying to sell something to someone who doesn't need it, it's gonna bite you in the ass sooner rather than later.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I like about your approach. Just the way that you open, social engineer, build cool shit and change the world. I mean, that's good stuff. I think too many people get caught up in the technology, right? In the gadgets, and forget that there's a human being at the other end. And I go to these different conferences, I speak at some of them, but I'm like, at least in the internet marketing space, I'm like, I don't know, the crazy uncle. They let me in because they know that I do bring my own whiskey. But I tell them at the end of the day, you're making a sale. Yeah. You're doing all of this to make a sale. It's a sale to get them to open your email, to click, to read it, to click, to get to your landing page, to opt in, to open that next one. All of that are little baby sales. And it's like nobody wants to talk about that. But deep down, I've always said, the best marketers, I think, are great salesmen at heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I started an experiment about a month ago. Long story short, I made the stupid decision to email my list every single day. Partially because I wanted to annoy all the people that shouldn't be listening into unsubscribing. And actually the first email, the subject line was unsubscribe now. With this kind of irreverent, look, if you're not meant to be here, then you can leave now, because I'm about to annoy the shit out of you. and I said that, and I got so many responses of I don't know what you're about to do. I think my favorite one was, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention. and I, because the list was cold, I hadn't emailed them that much. And I kind of said, look, I'm doing a bad job at this. I'm not sending you stuff, so I'm going to do it every day, because I know I can commit to that. And the first week, every day, I would send something out, and it'd be, a story about a girl that I met and how that relates to marketing. And then it would be, talking about Facebook ads. It was whatever was on my mind, and in trying to tell it in a way that was both entertaining and educational. And all the first week, people were like, when are you going to sell me something? Are you actually writing these? What are you doing? And they were so confused that I was just having a conversation. And still, people are like, what? I just don't get it. And I'm like, I'm having a conversation. And the reality is that publicly I'm having a conversation, but privately I get bombed with emails of can I hire you? And sometimes I say yes, and sometimes I refer to other people, and sometimes I can get a commission. But the reality is I'm just talking and having conversations, and then privately people pull me aside and say, hey, I have this thing going on, is this something that you can help me with? The sale doesn't always have to happen publicly. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize, is that you can just, talk and entertain and engage and teach, and people will contact you and they will ask for help. Yeah.
I get that every time. Every time I send out the Weekly Whisper, and they'll email privately. I wish they would do more publicly, but hey, I get it, but it's business comes and conversations happen, and more business comes. But how long did you do that daily?
I'm still going. I made the stupid part of my commitment is I actually have an app where I, commit to things, and it's called Promise. Cool. But I said, I will email my list every day in 2016 until only my mother, even if my mother is the only one subscribed. And my list dropped by about 109 people the first day, and then started increasing. And massive amounts of content that, as I'm told, is valuable, and I just never thought that I could create this much content. But I'm like, it's an email a day, and lo and behold, it's 900 words. I mean, it's fun. I'm talking to cool people. And then the other thing, too, and feel free to steal this, is that the following day, I'll say, yesterday, so-and-so responded with, XYZ, and, this is what I told them. And so what it tells other people is like, look, we're having a conversation. You can chime in here anytime you want. And the more that I mention other people's conversations with me, the more that other people want to jump in. They feel It's a community. And so every private email that I have, not every private email, as many as I can, if someone says something really intelligent that makes me go down a rabbit hole of like research and thinking, then I'll talk about it. And I wrote something about the difference between Reddit and Facebook. And then someone challenged me and they said, well, what about this? And I said, so-and-so yesterday said this, and he's absolutely right. Here's a great, aside on Reddit and democracy and how you can leverage it and yada, yada. So, it's great prompts. I mean, they basically tell me what I need to be writing.
So are you, do you just wake up in the morning and write? Do you write 3 or 4 or 5 ahead of time?
No, it's every morning. It's the first thing that I do when I sit down on my computer. Usually I'll meditate, I'll go work out, and then I'll end up at my coffee shop and get my normal coffee with the normal people that always know my name and know what I order. It's kind of weird, very routine.
Do they call you Ghost?
They don't. No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I don't even know if they know my name, but they give me free coffee.
Free?
Sometimes.
I'm coming to your place. Do they get free whiskey?
I told you. I have a look. Like, you've seen the look, and occasionally there are men who are not straight that want to give me free coffee, and I try and thank them as best I can without insinuating things that are...
I see how you are. All right. See, those are the things I don't get, living way out in Murrieta, with a wife, a dog, and 7 kids,
Well, you are more than welcome to come visit, and I will come tout you around Venice and all of the fun parts of Southern California.
I'm going to get my tank top on, baby. I look pretty good for almost 46.
You do flex those muscles. If you're not watching the video, they are sizable.
You should tune in, because I photoshopped. I did, well, I got styrofoam in here, but don't tell anybody. I'm going to edit that out. I have my kid's Superman outfit on.
I always wear...
Anyway.
It's funny, your camera autofocused as you were blowing into your thumb, so it actually looked like you got bigger.
No, that was not an accident. But anyway. All right. So you go get your coffee, get your thing, and do you write at the coffee shop, or do you go home and write?
No, I'm a coffee shop guy. I like a lot of distractions and a lot of movement around me.
Yeah.
It's a different conversation, but that's where I found I work best. And usually in the past, I've been so anti-checking my email before noon.
Yeah. I
don't like having other people's agendas in my head, because then I get less done because I'm distracted.
Yep.
But this has been the one time in my life that I've been able to, I'll sit down, I'll see if there's any reader mail from the day before, I'll go through it, I'll respond. And sometimes I'll come up with an idea in between waking up and getting to the cafe. Sometimes I'll go with that. Sometimes I'll throw that away for another day and write about something that someone prompted. I have a lot of stuff that I'm like, I'll get to that later. And then by the time I get to it, I'm like, nah, it's not relevant.
Yeah.
It really is. It's whatever the hell I feel like. And I think last Saturday, on Valentine's Day, a single guy, ran into a girl that I had met in the cafe before, and we'd gone on a date, and I thought it went well, and she got all kind of hard to reach, if you know what I mean. And we ended up going for lunch, and it was this crazy, ridiculous conversation.
Actually, I don't know what you mean, but anyway.
Yeah, you haven't known what I meant for a long time. I get. I'll explain.
Oh, no, none ever told me. No, but anyway, so you had this conversation.
Well, this one didn't tell. Well, yeah, you have to read it.
None of them went silent. How's that? All right. They were calling me on cell phones in 1990, dude. Before there were even cell phones, they were inventing them to find me. But this is about you, not me. Okay. So
to be fair, I have gotten dates because of people Googling me. Like, someone Googled me once, and they're like, I wasn't going to do a second date, but I Googled you and found you featured in Adweek. And I love Adweek, so I guess we'll do it.
All right. So then...
That's the only reason I focus on SEO.
It's cheaper than Tinder or eHarmony, right?
Fun story. There's a matchmaking service it's nationwide, but they're big in Los Angeles, and it's like $5,000 for 6 months of service.
Wow.
And I'm like, that seems a little pricey. And I kind of said, hey, like I have some articles that I've never written because they're not a fit for my blog. They're kind of more dating social engineering than marketing social engineering. And come to find out, 90% of their audience are affluent women who can afford their service. And I wrote this 3,200-word story that was, it painted me as an interesting, cool dude, but it was really just an entertaining story. And they sent it out to their list of 14,000 women in Los Angeles. And I started to get people like, oh, I need to talk to this guy. So I hacked the matchmaking service to advertise me for free.
Nice.
And it was a fun article to write.
All right. So anyway, so it was Valentine's Day and you run into this girl again, right?
Yeah. And so I came home and I walked out smiling, and I was just like, I got to write this. And I sat on my porch and didn't move for 3 hours and came out and had 1,965 words.
Wow.
Versus normally I'll bang out, 900 words in like 30 minutes. But the first few, when I wasn't used to it, it would probably take me 2 to 3 hours to write, somewhere in the range of 800 to 1,000. But the more practiced you get at kind of your voice, which is, you have an idea and you communicate it in a story, the more practiced you get, the more it just flows. The more
right.
I'm not deleting sentences like I used to do a year ago. I'm just like, right. I'm writing a thing.
Are you writing it right in your email client? Or are you doing it like in Word or Apple Pages and then pasting it?
No, I'm in MailChimp. And part of that reason is I am just insanely OCD about formatting, and all of my emails are perfectly formatted
right.
for the screen width. Oh,
gotcha. So where can people sign up? Is it just on your mysocialsherpa.com?
So as of the end of this week, My Social Sherpa is becoming Ghost Influence.
Okay.
So the brand is getting mushed together. But yeah, at the top of ghostinfluence.com, there's a little bar. And if you click it and drop your email, you will get annoyed by me for every day for at least the next year.
And are you selling anything? Or are you just keeping their attention, letting people find you and reach out as they think they need help, and you might be able to help them?
I have things as I said in my initial email, I have things for sale, but I am not selling anything.
Right.
The idea is that I'm going to be me. And if you find me interesting, educational, whatever, then you're going to say, I want more of this. And that's how I get it. It's the only pitch that I have is at the bottom of every email. It says, if you'd like to hear me giving advice to epic people, then tune into the podcast. If you'd like some advice of your own, then join Ghost Influence, and that's it. And that's all it's took. If people want to jump in, they jump in. And I need to clarify the offer a little bit more, which is kind of what's in the process. But
right.
The reality of it is the sale and the brand are two very separated things. And it's kind of like just being the fun guy in the neighborhood, and people know that you're a car salesman. But if you're just the fun guy in the neighborhood that people want to invite to a party, when they go to buy a car, they're going to think of you.
So I just opted in. It says, remember, you brought this on yourself. That is awesome.
I think everything's an opportunity for a joke. That's gotten me in trouble sometimes.
All right. I might steal that.
I feel like it works for you. Yeah, of all the people I talk to, I feel like that definitely works for you.
I got to write that down before I forget. All right, so I get to your site, and for a second, I was a little confused because I see this Leveraging Democracy Slack chat community. I'm like, am I signing up for Slack? And I see the little hello ribbon at the top. So is that intentional? What's your thinking around, instead of having like a big opt-in, come sign up for my daily email list?
Yeah, that's, it's not intentional. It was, the website was built up until a month
drunk?
Or a few weeks from now. No, it was, I have this balance of when I'm doing my own stuff, a lot of times I just get it done because I know where I hesitate. And
right.
One of my big hesitations is content. I'm always nervous to create content
right.
in my voice. The Your Place Tonight thing, like I love that because it's not me making it. It's like some internet person. But the writing stuff I've always struggled with. So my Social Sherpa, I always hated the brand. I literally just removed as many pages as I could and only had the blog when I launched because I was like, I'll fix it later. I just need to focus on writing and getting this done.
Right.
The same thing kind of happened with Ghost Influence, is that I just made it. So the new site's in process, but really it was a balance between managing my own anxiety and getting something live,
right.
and then figuring the rest of it out later.
Well, I mean, you're on ad week, man. So now they're going to analyze everything. Like, why do you blink with your left eye and not your right? And, does that help with SEO? So they're going to analyze everything.
What's funny is that happened. Someone commented on one of my ads, and they said, I'm just curious as to why you don't have an editor. You have a lot of spelling and grammar errors. I'm wondering, if that's just a ploy to make you seem more human. And I was like, no, it's not. I'm just inherently lazy, and once I get something done, I just want it out.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately totally missed out on this joke because I posted a snapshot of my Facebook page, and a copywriter friend, I said, "They're on to me," THEY''re, they're on to me, and he just commented and he spell corrected me, THEIR, on to me, and I'm like, I just so missed the opportunity for that joke. But yeah, no, so that happened. We ended up chatting publicly, I think maybe 2 or 3 interactions. And then he ended up private messaging me, and lo and behold, he's the head of marketing for a $500 million company and wanted to talk about hiring me as a consultant. So my spelling errors potentially, we ended up not working together. I actually turned down the project, but, getting that kind of a potential client from spelling errors, completely unintentional.
Right.
But really, I think it just kind of goes to show that everything that happens is an opportunity for conversation and connection.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. So did you give everyone a heads up that you were going to do daily, or was it just you sent an email blast, hey, this is coming your way, opt out now, huh?
No, the first email, and you'll get it. That's the only one that's automated if you opt in, which you'll get or the first 2. So you'll read the first one; it'll make sense. But the subject line is unsubscribe now. And if I can paraphrase, I said kind of midway through, and I'll ruin the joke for everybody who opts in. But I said there are a lot of comparisons between sex and conversions, and I said the internet is the bar, your website is your house, your email list is your bedroom, and customer acquisition is, well, you get the point. And I said, so to be frank, we're in my bedroom right now. We're laying on the bed, staring longingly into each other's eyes, and I'm asking you straight up, are you here to cuddle or are you here to fuck? And that was the email that I sent to my list. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to sell you anything, but I will be emailing you every day. And if that sounds terrifying or annoying, then you can leave. Mm-hmm. Here's a button.
So when you have a few too many whiskeys on a Friday night, does the Saturday email not go out till maybe noon or 2 o'clock?
No, the email always goes out, but usually when I go to write the email in the morning, I'll open my email and I'll have 5 notifications from GoDaddy saying your new domain is ready. I'm actually now the proud owner of drunkasshole.com.
Hey, you know what? There's a need for that.
There is, and people will find out in the very near future, most notably one of my friends.
Well, I've owned areyoustupidorwhat.com for a long time. I need to do something with it. So you and I need to get some whiskeys together and launch.
I like the sound of this. One of my if you're ever at a conference and you want to really get to know someone that you're talking to, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what is the most ridiculous domain that you own?
I like that.
It's the best prompt for conversation because there's always a story attached.
Right.
And I remember an odd number of my domains and the stories that started them. Every once in a while I'll find one. I'm like, when did I buy that?
That's awesome. All right. Well, you keep talking about whiskeys. I think it's time.
Yeah. I'm gonna go whiskey. Are you doing neat or on the rocks?
I do 1 small ice cube.
Okay. Good plan.
Just kind of break it up a little bit. Doesn't water it down too much.
Yeah, it depends. For me, it depends. It's anywhere between 0 and 2. 2 is usually for the really crazy strong whiskey. Yeah.
I don't know. One does it. And I'm relatively new to the whole spirits thing, probably the last few years. And I was a beer guy, and then, I don't know, got tired of it. Living out here, got into the wines. But I don't know, those big reds like they put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Those tannins, whatever. And so I just start sampling different whiskeys and scotches, and man, I got a nice little collection going now, and I like them.
Oh, they're tasty, and they're addicting because there's so many different ways to explore it. Any kind of alcohol, if you actually get into finding good alcohol,
Right.
actually one of my goals for a while, and honestly it just plays out everywhere, is I promised myself not to drink anything that I wasn't excited about.
Yeah.
So if I'd had it before, I'm like, I'm not going to drink it. And then the same thing is for, even like networking events. It's like, go to things that excite you, and you're going to make better connections because
Right.
you're going to be in a good place.
Yeah, a guy that I follow, Roy Williams, he says he calls it bowling alley beer, or bowling alley whiskey, right? So like at his conferences, there's no Bud Light in that thing. You're going to dig through, you're going to go, what the heck is this? Give me some of that. So I had to pull this up. So right now, it's the most expensive bottle I bought, and I got it on Super Bowl Sunday. The Balvenie, I think it's called, double wood, age 17 years. Matured in 2 distinct casks. So that's why it's called double wood. And this thing is smooth. It's $120 for the bottle.
Damn.
And I only share that with my mom because my wife doesn't drink it. She likes Bud Light and white wine. She's pretty simple.
Yeah, those are the ones you sit up on your mantle and break it down for a special occasion, landing that big sale.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I do is I put the cardboard container up, and then I'll let people go think they're going to go grab it, but it's empty because I have the bottle stashed away behind my dog, behind the guns.
That's also a smart idea in California, where if it's on a high shelf and there's an earthquake,
Yeah.
you don't want that bottle breaking.
All right, Mr. Brian. Well, this has been awesome. So I will send people where? We're going to send them to your ghostinfluence.com. Is that where you want me to go?
To ghostinfluence.com.
All right. We will have the notes on there. Thank you for carving out some time and sharing your words of wisdom and your digital empathy. I'm going to go get that book.
Thanks so much for having me on and for all of the exciting, colorful, and empathetic prompts.
My pleasure, man. Enjoy that whiskey. So how'd you like that interview with that social engineer? I told you a little bit of bad language, but not too much. But you were warned. I love how he says, everybody has a story, and most of it is how you tell it. I've been talking about that for years. You've got to be good at storytelling. Jesus told stories. He told parables. He didn't have the internet. He didn't have Snapchat. He didn't have podcasts. He told parables, and those things have lived on for 2,000 years. So get good at telling your story. I've been looking at this. He's the second guy now in the last month or so encouraging me to write an email daily. I blog a lot, but I am seriously looking into that. So stay tuned. I'm going to pull the trigger on that soon. But otherwise, I hope you got a lot out of this, especially his things like asking interesting questions. If you notice on these episodes, I'm engaging with these guests through better questions. And in my sales training, I always talk about, how does Oprah or David Letterman, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, Kimmel now, all the new guys, how do they make money? They asked interesting questions of interesting people. When you're sitting across the table from your prospect, that is an interesting person. So ask better questions. When you're at a networking event, ask better questions. That's how you engage. That's how you prove that you are an interesting person, believe it or not, is by the questions that you ask. Okay? Like you said, it has nothing to do with internet magic. Dig in for the truth. Be curious. I've always said, the new ABCs of selling are no longer always be closing. It's always be curious. Always be concise, right? Give a short answer. Turn around and ask another question. Always be courteous. Heaven knows that, man, if you are rude at all, it will be on the internet before that last syllable exits your mouth. So the new ABC. So always be curious. As always, like I said, go back and listen to this a couple of times. Take some notes and apply. Go check out what he's doing. I'm linking to his session as well with the notes and links to his various sites. You can get that at thesaleswhisperer.com/session 178. Go there to get the notes. Follow him on Twitter, engage with him, follow him on Reddit. You will be glad that you did. Thanks for listening, and please be sure to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Show a little love on the comment section as well, so I know that you're out there. Hit me up on Twitter. I engage a lot there. I do prefer that platform for the most part. And as always, again, remember to sell different.